Doug Holroyd of the Norgay Group.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Hey. Pleasure to be here. So happy hour announcements, free tickets, and karaoke. That's a tough act to follow. So yeah, I'm going to share a little bit of what I've learned and what I've learned with my team about customer experiences. And but I thought first, make sure I know how to work the PowerPoint slides. But thought some introductions would be in order. I know several of you. Some of you I know I've worked with before. Some of you I've just know each other professionally. Some of you I know as friends. And I know obviously all startup companies, but maybe love to know a little bit more about maybe what you guys are doing. So maybe just a show of hands, how many are people in technology? Starting on an easy one. Okay, technology, software, hardware. Okay. Commercial businesses, business to business industries. Okay. Furniture. Yeah. Energy drinks. Any energy drinks here? There we go. Finance. Cool. Thank you. It helps me. At least I know who I'm talking to a little bit. But again, thrilled to be here. Just a little bit about me. I have way too much experience that I don't want to even admit to anymore in terms of years. 20 plus years. I've been mostly in agency roles and brand management roles, places like Leo Burnett, Kimberly-Clark, and most recently McKinney. Over that time, you know, I've been spending a lot of time, about the past 15 years or so, developing a lot of kind of unique approaches to marketing and brand strategy. And after developing it over years and years, as you guys know, and developing your own, they actually got to a point where they became kind of a legitimate proprietary practice. And about 8 years ago, we bundled them all up with some other kind of more traditional approaches under the Norgay Group. We did that at McKinney about 8 years ago, and I've been operating it independently for the past 5 years. I kind of understand being in a startup as well. The Norgay Group, it's in honor of Tenzing Norgay. Anybody know who Tenzing Norgay is? Yeah, not many, right? Not many. He was the Sherpa on the first ascent of Mount Everest with Sir Edmund Hillary. So it's a metaphor, right? I'm kind of a big outdoors guy, so it kind of fits me that way. But really, it's about a metaphor about really doing new things, climbing new heights, and doing things that haven't been done before. But more importantly, being the Sherpa, right? We want to help people do that. That's kind of the point. And so this whole practice is really kind of founded on doing new things. And we've done a lot of new things, whether it be start new companies, launch new companies. We've done a lot of new things in terms of repositioning old brands so they can be relevant in today's time, helping companies launch new products, enter new markets, launch new services. And we've done an awful lot of work, we've done a lot of research, and that's really just what I wanted to share today, is what we've learned over time in terms of how to leverage your brand, how to leverage marketing to help you do something new. We don't have a big whiteboard enough that I would kind of circulate this. So I am going to ask you to do some things, right? It's not going to be heavy participation. Obviously, you guys aren't afraid of that. But I was also expecting that nobody's going to have any notepads or pens and paper in a place like this. So I'm going to hand some out real quick so you all have that. Try and be a little disruptive in a high-tech environment. So that's enough about me. I'm sure you've heard enough about me, and rather me just start to kind of share what I've learned. So we're talking about customer experiences, right? We like to think of it, what we've learned of it is it's a big, complex thing for a lot of reasons, and I'm going to share some things that probably aren't insights, or just to put some context into what this makes this such a big issue, right? And certainly, just on the side is fine. Certainly data is a big issue, right? These are just some stats, what happens in the world, sorry, not in the world, just in North America actually, every minute. So 2.7 million Google searches happen every minute. You guys know all these things, right? What it does though, it's measuring all our interactions. It's measuring all of our experiments that we're having with different organizations, with different people, and it creates a lot of data, right? A lot of data, you guys know that. 85% of internet users watch TV while using a mobile device. So it's not just a digital experience, right? People are using traditional things, they're using digital things, and they're influencing each other. And that's hard to measure, it's hard to understand, and it's complex. And digital also is influencing our purchase decisions, right? So 82% of smartphone users consult their phone while shopping. So it's a physical experience too, right? This is just to say there's a lot going on. A lot of the things that we've been doing from the beginning of time, right? But some are new. But it's confusing. It's very confusing. And I think what we've learned in the area of customer experience over the past 12, 15 years is that there's no silver bullet, right? A lot of people are going to talk about UX. A lot of people are going to talk about customer service, service design. The list goes on, right? And what we found is that it's not one of those things. It's a lot of those things. And a lot of them are having different kinds of influences on your customer experience. And it can be daunting. So what we've learned, and what we want to share with you, is that the experience can be studied. It can be slowed down, it can be understood, and you can manage it in that context. So that's what we're going to kind of share. Kind of a theory is that in this customer experience, what we've lost track of is customers, right? And the theory holds, and it's a pretty well-informed theory, is that as we all know very well in terms of starting a company, a product, building a service, a solution, we're all so focused on it, right? So focused on making it as good as it can be, as different as it can be, and continuously improving it. That's called an inside-out point of view is what you're doing, right? We try to use very technical terms around here, inside out, outside in. Theory number 2 is that inside-out strategies from a marketing and brand standpoint are very common. They're very well developed. Understanding your purpose, understanding how to position yourself, brand management practices, they're very well understood, very simple to apply, and therefore very comfortable. And therein where lies the trap. You've got marketing and brand strategies on top of a very inward-focused product or service orientation, building mentality, entrepreneurial mentality. It's easy to feel safe in that regard. But we're losing track of what is really important is an outside-in perspective or a perspective on the market. And those tools, voice of the customer, brand trackers, market share trackers, they haven't advanced. And that's kind of the core of what we've learned and what we've studied over time. And one of the things that we've learned is if it's about customers, we have found, again, over all of these studies and research that we've done, is that customers do choose brands. And we do an exercise. We're going to show you something like this. We're going to actually have you do it yourself. We do modeling of markets. Not complex, not hard, not rocket science, but we model markets. And what we're trying to understand is, what are people who are choosing individual brands, what's driving that? And we constantly find these models that are extremely strong. So variance, right? Technical term, you guys probably understand better than I do, but it basically says how strong is the model predicting in terms of this brand choice. And our models, this is just an example across, I don't know, the first dozen industries or something like that. 70% variance explained, 95% variance explained. And when I first started doing this, because I'm not a professional modeler, but I do use models in my profession, I thought 70%, that's a C. That's not very good. But I work with a lot of professional modelers, and over time I've come to understand that 70% is pretty darn good. In fact, if you have 20, 30, 40% companies who are making bets on models like that. So this is pretty amazing, right? Pretty amazing. So I want you to sit down. Who has customers? Or at least in your business plan, you have customers, right? Everyone. Okay. So take a quick second. And I want you to try and get up to 5 different descriptions, one-word descriptions of your customers, your best prospects. Take 30 seconds to do that. We having trouble? Should be easy, right? Your best customers. Talking to them all the time. All right, stop. Take a quick second. Take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and talk to the person next to you. What did you write down? What did you learn? What didn't you write down? What don't you know? So take a look at your list, and typically there's a couple of classifications us brand and marketing people think of in terms of describing those, right? They fall in different buckets. One of those buckets is demographics or firmographics. So look at your list real quick. A demographic would be customer's age, a customer's income, where they live, how old they are, a firm in terms of what industry it might be, an employee size. How many, just quick show of hands, how many people use demographics to explain their best customers? Keep up, keep up, keep up. I can't guess. I'm gonna say about 50%. Okay, the second group are broad behaviors, or something we decide to think about, right? So are they past purchasers of a certain product, a certain category? Do they travel on a regular basis? Do they make large business decisions versus small business decisions? What have they done in the past that we can use to help describe our best customers? Make sense? Okay, show of hands who use that. Hands up, keep them up, keep them up. You can guess about a third. All right, then there's others. Those are most typically what they are. Give me, anyone who has something different than one of those kinds of buckets that we just talked about? Can you share it?
Emotions, like they're desperate or they're in a rut.
Love it. Anyone else have anything like that? About 100 people here, does that sound fair? That looks like 2 or 3%. Yeah. So, okay, so it looks like, anything else? Does anyone have anything different than that? Yeah.
Aspirational.
Aspirational, that's similar, right? That's similar, that's an inward thing that it can't see necessarily.
You might be doing something different in the past, you want to change.
Right. Diets are a perfect one, right? Yeah. Just got back from vacation, I need one myself. Anyone else? Anything else like that? Yeah, in the back. Values, again, more of an internal thing, right? It's hard to really see from the outside, discreetly, black and white. So maybe a 5 to 10% in this other range, right? Okay. That's actually a pretty good reflection of the market. Most clients we've dealt with, most companies, organizations, corporations we've dealt with, that's what they do. But what we've learned is that actually that is not what's driving brand choice. There you go. Brands are really experiences, and what's being driven by this is not their demographics or behaviors, right? Brands are like I said, experiences, right? So think of brands, successful brands like Harley-Davidson, right? It is a lifestyle. It is cafes. It is groups out on the roads on Saturday morning, right? Nations, like nation status is thinking about brands, right? You're a brand. We're all our own individual brand, and Fast Company captured that a while ago, right? So these brands are about experiences, and this is a different. What I'd like to challenge in the notion is what people think of when they think of brand, right? We're talking a different language here. This is not logos. This is not brand identities. This is not font color and size and communications. And it's not what organization we're going to give to, right? It's not corporate giving, anything like that. We're talking about customers and actually leveraging customer value, whether it be new customers, better customers, loyal customers, fans. And that's boardroom talk, right? That's investor talk. That's right? You're saying it, you understand it, right? Like, this is the kind of thing that you can actually leverage in terms of actually generating value for your company. And it's about experiences. So if customers are choosing brands are about experiences, ergo, right? And this is how we model that. So it is all about attitudes and emotions, more so than demos and behaviors. Let me play this out for you, right? This is a model I'm going to be using as examples instead of getting into one individual sector. I'm trying to use something that we can all kind of at least understand and relate to. This is a model of the athletic apparel business. So think Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, right? And this model, I don't have it posted here, is actually a 94% variance in strength. Really, really strong. And there's a lot of different things in here, so this is just a representative thing. So this is representative of people who've bought individual brands in the past year in athletic apparel, right? So if you think about this from left to right, one end is rational, one end is about being passionate. So as an example, if you were going to answer, I'm working at eating a well-balanced diet, if you were highly likely to agree to that statement, you would fall on the left side of this model. Conversely, on the right side of the model, if you would agree that you'd like to make a unique fashion statement, you would fall on the right side of this model and consider someone very passionate. You can read the top and bottom ones as examples there, but that's about being proactive and reactive. So that's a model, and it's based on attitudes that are symbolic of those axes, and you can see where the different buyers and purchasers of brands fall, and they're actually very different from one another, right? So again, a strong model, you can see Nike falls right in the middle. It's because they're huge, and everybody chooses them. It's actually a good aspiration, but when you look at reactive versus passionate, Adidas and Under Armour, right? You interpret that as being passionate, obviously what it says, but reactive, and there's some sort of a combination of kind of fashion and style there. And Merrell and Skechers go together, New Balance and Asics, but this creates an interesting framework about your business, doesn't it? It starts to show you who you might be competing with, who you might not think you're competing with. It might be showing you opportunities of where you can introduce new products. And in this case, it was actually done for Mission. Has anyone heard of Mission in terms of athletic gear? No. Does this help you? Oh. There's those towels you find kind of all over the place, and you get them wet and snap them when they get really cold. They're in Costco, they're in Home Depot, they're in Target, they're in Dick's. No? Well, this is what they were, okay? And they aspired to launch into the athletic apparel space. Good for them. Go take on Under Armour and Nike. It's pretty cool, right? Well, they used that model. I can't go back and forth. Yeah, great. Right? They looked at that model and they said, look at that proactive and passionate quadrant there. Nike ain't there. Under Armour ain't there. Adidas ain't there, right? That's a great place for us to go for. And this is representative of customer markets, right? So there's actually a group of people in there that they found big enough. So they went from that to just launching this winter with a website that looks like that for highly athletic and individual competitive sports. Running, triathletes, that kind of thing. Very different, right? Same thing for women. So they're launching into a whole new product, pushing their brand and their experience around these emotions and attitudes. So go back to your pencil and paper or whatever you use. Jot down, some of you already did, but try, if you don't have 5, try and get up to 5 different explanations of your best customer in terms of their emotions or their attitudes. Emotional or attitudinal descriptions. Trouble? All right, does anybody want to share a couple they had?
Got empathetic, impact, mission, focused,
Focused, mission.
kind of like they believe in relationships, so they care about people.
Yep. Great. Anyone else? Yeah.
Open-minded and creative.
Great. Awesome. So interestingly, those are all positive attitudes. That's awesome, right? And that's what you do want to appeal to. So then, if we're thinking about attitudes now, right, in terms of defining our best prospects, and in doing that, we know that because that's really defines not only the market, but discrete groups of people and how they choose their brand experiences. Now we want to actually understand what is the experience that they're having. And this is when we start to drill down a little bit deeper, right? So for mission, we knew that they're having this kind of very proactive, passionate kind of experience. I want to use another example here. We've been studying this for a long time, and we've actually built up a database of 30,000 different customer groups across, I think it's a little over 20 different industries right now. And you can actually start to boil down how people are having experiences and start to see trends. And these are the trends that we found. So we're going to start at a very high level here, talking about customer experiences and really breaking it down. So I told you at the very beginning, we've learned that this is a complex thing that's going on, but you can study it and you can break it down, slow it down, and understand how to manage it. This is kind of the first step. So you can kind of look at any customer experience that they're having, going from not looking to buy, passively shopping, actively shopping, and just purchased. There's actually a combination of what we found is there's a combination of negative and positive attitudes that go on. So you've said a lot of the positive attitudes, those are great examples. Negatives might be confusing, complicated, annoying, unservice related. There's lots of different things that we've just studied over the years. And this is the trend, right? And this is the average across all of these different industries. So 4 different phases. Interestingly, positive emotions do outweigh negative emotions, so not surprising that nobody actually offered any negative emotions. But they do exist. Right, they do exist. And then there's the other observation is that they tend to fluctuate over time, right? So this customer experience that we're imagining, right, actually has discrete phases with discrete combinations of attitudes and positive and negative ones that go over time. So you can start to see, hopefully, that this becomes a diagnostic tool and a framework that we can actually help understand and help migrate and manage our customers' experience based on where they're having interactions. And what I'll start to talk about a little bit is where do we participate, right? So take a minute and jot down, take 4 phases just like this, and jot down on your note where your positive and negative emotions lie in your customer's experience with you. Draw that one for you. Whether you're making note of where you're average, where you're not different, where you're different, where you're the same as this. People become your customers, yeah. You actually have people in different buckets, right? Because you have people who are not looking to buy who've never bought you. You have people who are not looking to buy who have bought you. So. Okay, so just real quick, I want to, whether you wrote it down or not, again, by show of hands, how many people think that their customer experience with their own brand looks just like this? How many people think theirs looks different? A lot of nodding heads, some hands, right? Does anybody think that their experience is actually more negative than positive with their customers? No one wants to think that, right? Well, that's the point of average. Nothing is average, right? So here's just a couple of examples of two industries, right? Customers who are having experiences that are very different than average. So on the left, we're looking at, this is in commercial businesses, right? B2B telecom, enterprise telecommunications needs, right? So their positive emotions do outweigh their negative attitudes, right? Going through the actual purchasing process and the experience of B2B telecom. But those are the average lines that we have there carried over from the last one, and they don't fall average, right? So it's unique. It's more positive than negative, but it has different fluctuations going through this very simple view of a customer experience. Now, consumer wireless, and think about this, right? Contracts, plans, prices, right? So you as a person, who has a cell phone? Come on, everyone's got a cell phone. Will anyone not agree that this is kind of the right thing? It's like, as long as I'm not looking to buy or I'm done buying, it's an okay experience. But as soon as I have to either think about it or do it, it becomes a negative experience, right? Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. But it's pretty interesting to map it this way. So you, as starting as someone to manage your customer's experience in your brand, you can actually start to manage this and do something looking at it this way. So a quick example. This is about leisure travel. Anyone travel for leisure? Yeah, I think like 80% of America does, at least once a year. So hopefully this is something you can start to associate with, right? So this was done for Travelocity. The online travel agent just got paid Expedia for $280 million. So some observations here, right? One is there's not 4 distinct phases in the travel experience. There's 6, which makes sense. They should be unique, right? So now we're starting to look at our own customer experience with our own brand and start to actually customize it, right? For Travelocity, they learned that the overriding attitude for leisure travel is what? Fun. Right? So those bars you see there are not positive, negative, but they're levels of fun. So if you look at dreaming versus getting there, being at the destination, getting back, very high in terms of enjoying fun. And think about booking, again, go back to cell phones, right? We can all hopefully relate to this. Last time you booked your own travel, what was the least fun part of that?
Booking to travel.
Booking to travel, figuring out how much am I going to spend? How much is it going to cost? Am I getting the best deal? When's the right time to go there? Where am I going to go? Rental, everything. All right, so guess what? It's not that fun. So I'm going to introduce another level to this too, is that you can see where the levels of fun are. You can also then start to understand where are you participating with the customers in this. And there's a great conference board study that came out a couple years ago, and you might be familiar with it, but it says once someone interacts with you, so a potential customer interacts with you, they are 50% of the way through the purchase process, in the decision-making process. So in this case, it would be a fine, right? You're not participating much. Most brands are not participating very much with these. Travelocity found the very same thing, right? They were only participating in the shopping and buying phases of leisure travel, which are no fun. So that creates an awful lot of opportunities, right? What it did for them, they said, okay, if travel is all about fun, we're going to build this little funny icon and make a new identity that's about the joy of travel and embrace that. To help get outside and start participating with their customers in different parts of that brand experience, they introduced a guarantee. People were shopping them but not buying them because they were worried about the technology failing them. They were only doing airline tickets. They weren't participating in the actual trip themselves, so they bought a new company so they could bring it in-house and actually sell event tickets on site in different markets. And finally, social is a big part, right? You get back and you share your photos, you get back and you talk about it. When you're planning, you're asking other people if they've been there and what their experiences have been, so they launched iGoYouGo as a social community to help foster that, and again, participate as a part of that experience. So this sets up a whole world of opportunities if you start to look at this, at least a different Travelocity. I mean, it actually fundamentally changed their business that they're in, which is pretty interesting. We have found anyway. So go back to what you're thinking or you jotted it down. We had 4 phases to your own experience. Think about what other ones you might add. Which ones aren't there? Are there any distinct, instead of just not shopping, passively shopping, actively shopping, and just shopped? What are some of the more unique ones to your customer's experience? Think about that for a minute. Now also think about where is your company or your organization or your brand actually participating with that. Anybody learn anything? Did they glean any insights? Any opportunities? What was yours?
Let's think about the part of the process where the company's coming up with their strategic marketing plan in general. So deciding that we need videos, that's what we do. But how to be part of that process.
Get way up front, right? Yeah. Make sure they're considering your solution before they even come up with a solution. Yeah. Anyone else? Just a show of hands in terms of learn something new. Share.
Thinking by touch after the implementation is probably not high enough.
Yeah, it's common. Again, you get very focused in what your business is, right? And you realize that there's a lot of opportunities beyond that where you can actually be having an impact. Awesome. So that was kind of about using the experience to talk about strategic insights. So a couple frameworks, hopefully, that have been introduced to you now, which is in terms of understanding how to model the market, how you can actually use the mapping of the experience to actually get you some insights in terms of opportunities, threats, new product development. This is another kind of the last thing on this is actually it can be a good framework for a planning tool. One of the things I've tried to impress in the very beginning is that there's all this data, all this interaction, physical, digital, all those things that are going on. How do you plan for that? How do you integrate for that? Every chief marketing officer I talk to, that's their biggest issue, right? Is all these different tools, how do I apply them to the right place at the right time, et cetera, et cetera. So that framework, if you think about it, so think about the framework you just kind of jetted out on your notepad or in your head, 4 stages, 5 stages, 6 stages, 7, whatever it might be, your brand and company is participating in certain places and not. That same framework is a planning tool. And this is a planning tool that was developed for Sherwin-Williams. So again, something I hope we all can relate to. We all painted a dorm room, a house, an apartment. So we've all painted. This was for them, they went through the whole process and they found that there were 4. And because Sherwin-Williams thought they were in the painting business, this was actually illuminating, right? When it comes to painting, it's not just painting. There's a planning phase, a prepping phase, the actual painting of itself, and then actually enjoying it post-wise, entertaining people at their house, getting ready for Christmas, whatever it might be, showing it off. Right there for Sherwin-Williams, that was an illuminating exercise. One thing they found, and again, go back to your own personal experience, if you were planning to paint something, usually you're thinking about it weeks or months in advance, and you're looking at magazines and websites and noticing other people's homes. It's really kind of cool, right? It's a discovery experience. And then of course when you're done with the project, as you painted yourself, you've got this great new room, a great new house, a great whatever it might be. And that's great, right? You get in the middle of it all, it's complicated. I mean, just go to the Lowe's or Home Depot paint aisle, right? Which color do you get? Oh, I've got a Sherwin-Williams color chip, but I'm at Lowe's, and they don't have the same things, and semi-gloss and gloss and flat. It's not easy. So that was the opportunity that they found, is that in so many experiences, there's always a snag somewhere in it. And so this is their model. But not to get, I don't really want to dwell on that. What I wanted to dwell on is, again, not dwell, is how they used it as a planning tool. So you can see that's the exact same framework, right? And I'm not going to dive into the details, but the organizing function of it is, right, in those 4 different phases, we know what kind of time period, we know what our customer, what they're thinking, what they're doing, we know what the desired behavior we would like to help them achieve. We know what the proposition, we can then develop the right proposition to help them do that, to help solve their problems. And then, in this case, they call them connectors, right? Where's the right place for a loyalty program to be applied? Where's the right place for a search engine optimization strategy to be applied? Where do follow-up phone calls apply? Where does mass advertising go? This becomes an organizing tool, and you can kind of see on the right, those are, again, just all the different executions that they had. So we've kind of gotten down to 3 different things that happen with you model, you can map, for strategic insights, and you can map for kind of a planning tool. And that brings this whole customer experience into something that's actually a lot more manageable. So this is a pretty straightforward way of doing it. I wanted to show very quickly just 2 other examples of how you can kind of adapt this thinking and this application and customize it to a number of different things, because it can be done. The first one is, this is a commercial lighting example. It sounds boring, doesn't it? Is anyone, who's here is in commercial businesses? Anything? Any kind of industrial commercial businesses where you don't sell directly to your customer? Your final customer is 2 or 3 away? No? Well, commercial lighting, there's a very complex thing, right? The product goes from the manufacturer to the distributor, the subcontractor, the general contractor, eventually to the customer, kind of that bottom thing. And there's all these influencers in between, right? So it's a complex situation. I don't know if anybody knows what's going on with lighting right now, but the whole Internet of Things is affecting that business too. So GE, Philips, our friends up the road at Cree, they're creating intelligent light, right? So this system has been in place since Alexander Graham Bell. No, didn't he? Yeah, he invented the light bulb, didn't he? Yeah. So it's been around since then, right? It's gonna be hard to undo. So one thing they understood is that using this kind of same diagnostic approach, right? What's the life cycle of a product that finally gets to my customer? And we're trying to introduce a new technology, we're trying to introduce a new way of thinking that really kind of blows up this model. They identified that these influencers of lighting specialists and architects and designers could be change agents, right? So now you get to study that. What they did by studying that is they did a little bit of research, not much, to understand who those people are. Again, this is all about customers. Now, the stereotype commercial lighting person, which one of those pictures would you think would be the stereotypical commercial lighting professional? The answer is the far right, right? People have been in the business forever. It's all relationship based. This is a very common theme through a lot of businesses, right? So the 4 on the left is not what the organization was thinking about, right? They're very creative people. They're very open-minded. They're very innovative kind of people. So therefore, the opportunity to be a change agent, right? So then diving into that, they were able to understand what is their path to purchase, right? What is their experience? And I'm not going to get into details. I'm just trying to show this as an illumination of how to apply this thinking in a lot of ways. In this case, in a very complex industrial business to try and create change. The last one, and just a quick snapshot. This is anyone selling through retail, anyone in retail, direct to consumer, consumer goods. Some people had some consumer goods, right? You're selling through retailers. This is just another way of thinking about the diagnostic, right? The shopping experience, we all shop. How about that? Does everyone shop? So there's different phases you go through shopping. And this model was called inviting, it's reorienting, finding, discovering, connecting, purchasing, and appreciating. And what is fundamental to the shopping trip is usually wants versus needs, right? So go to a Target, sometimes you're going for groceries. Going to Target, sometimes you're getting to get some kind of new thing for your home. Needs versus wants. You can begin to track, okay, where does milk fall in this need versus want occasion? Well, it's very much a need. If I need milk, I need milk. If I want a new bedstand, that's a want. So understanding this and taking this diagnostic approach, you can understand where your product might fall in that customer experience. So, love to hear thoughts, questions, reactions, but when it comes to customer experience, I guess what I would hope you would take away from this is that at the end of the day, customers do choose brands. There's a lot of talk about brands not mattering anymore, and our findings and conclusions would be that that's not true. It's actually a very strong driver of brand purchase. Their choices align with their attitudes and experience preferences, right? So brands are experiences, and that's what your customer experience is all around. If you take this fundamental perspective, which it really is fundamental, I mean, the funnel's been around forever. This is just acknowledging that customers have strategies outside of our own strategies. It can illuminate all kinds of strategic insights that lead to opportunities and solve threats, and it's adaptable to really any situation. It's not rote. So that's what we've learned about customer experiences over the years. Any questions I can answer?